Because of its geographical position in Sicily, Catania represents a natural container of great esteem, where precious artistical and historical beauties are present. From the river Simeto to Fiumefreddo, from Alcantara to Etna, the itinerary moves along a line of water and fire. A journey towards the discovery of uncontaminated places, where myth is mixed with reality. This territory, commonly known as Catanese, shows a heterogeneity of environments of different geographic and geological nature. A singular palette of strong and hot colors, enclosed in an area of only 20 kilometers. A passage that from the beach of Riposto takes us up to 3,350 meters, where we find the central crater of Etna. During this brief journey, in the heart of the most important natural areas of the province of Catania, we will try to transmit the same emotions felt by so many tourists that in the 18th century visited our land. Our journey starts with a fragment of nature that has been miraculously saved, not too far from Catania. L'Oasi del Simeto, a humid area amongst the most important in the Mediterranean. Established in 1984 as a natural reserve, finalized to favor an increment of the conditions for the rest and nesting of the avifauna, and also the reconstruction of the dune and marsh vegetation. Since 1988, the Regional Committee for the Territory and the Environment has given the management of this area to the regional province of Catania. The importance of this reserve is given by the variety of environments that characterize it, from the marine shores to the salty lakes, called salatelle, situated north of the old Simeto River mouth. The sweetwater internal canals that nourish Lake Gornalunga and Torre Allegra, the latter being artificial. The reserve is on the route of many migrating birds that move from the humid areas of Africa and North Europe and vice versa. Each environment has its usual inhabitants. On the seashore, we can admire hundreds of seagulls. The salatelle, we can admire numerous species of ducks and drakes, from the well-known mallard to the ferruginous duck. Another particularly interesting vision is with the grebe, the major being a well-known species of divers. The sultan, one of the most outstanding aquatic birds of the Italian fauna, has recently been reintroduced into the reserve, a significant initiative to support the wildlife extinct in Sicily, made possible thanks to the support of the regional province of Catania. The visitor that walks along the sandy shores, changed by the wind, will meet typical dune vegetation, formed by plants adapted to barrenness and the wind, such as the cottonweed and the purple spurge, while the strong bushes of the tamarisk vegetate along the drier banks. The brackish swamps are populated by the glasswort, and juncus rush are present around Lake Gornalunga. A particular wealth of the Simeto is amber, also called cimetite. This fossil resin comes from antique conifers in the Hebrides. It has been transported into the valley over the years by the atmospheric agents, depositing itself along the river and up to the mouth of the river itself. Traveling towards the north, the coast becomes decisively volcanic, being made of lava fronts from historical eruptions. The ancient eruptive manifestations are contemporary to the sedimentation of the more recent levels of marly clay of the Middle Pleistocene. The placement of the most ancient Etna products today constitutes the island of Lachea, the Faraglioni of the Ciclopi, and the rock of Aci Castello. About 500,000 years ago, the oriental margin of the extensive gulf sloped down towards the Ionian Sea, occupying the southern part of the area where Etna is today. An intense eruption burst out in the underwater environment with pillows of lava and yellow clastic chippings being brought to the surface and magmatic rocks forced under a slim covering of sediments. The residues of magma have not had direct contact with the water, but they have formed a rocky mass which has consolidated inside the material and formed the old seabed. Their intrusive origin is evidenced by the peaks of baked clay that covers the surface of the island Lachea and the extremity of the Great Faraglioni. The Lachea Island and the Faraglioni of the Ciclopi are situated in front of the fishing village of Aci Trezza. The Sicilian region has preserved them by constituting the present protected area in 1998. Apart from the landscape and cultural value of unquestionable worth, the reserve preserves faunistic and vegetation elements of great scientific value. Different species of birds are present, both permanently and non. The Podarcis sicula cyclopica is a unique lizard which can only be found on this island. The archipelago of the Ciclopi, following the Homerical tradition, has always been evoked as the scenery of mythological facts, and since prehistory it has been frequented by humans. On the island of Lachea there are two buildings. One is the laboratory of the Maritime Station, which belongs to the University of Catania. The other is a museum. The archipelago is also a marine protected area, established in 1989. It has a protected surface of 623 acres, the major part of which belongs to the municipality of Aci Castello. It extends from Punta Aguzza to Capo Mulini. The establishment of this protected area has allowed to evaluate the faunistic wealth of the Ciclopi's seabed, revealed by the presence of living invertebrates in the marine waters, each of which is represented by a nourished number of species. Along the lavic coast, which from Catania almost reaches the nearby town of Riposto, a spectacular series of morphological rocks can be seen, which have been created over millions of years by Etna's magma during its incandescent touch with the sea. Starting with the town of Capo Mulini, the volcanic coast starts to rise in quota, forming walls which are almost cliffs, becoming 100 meters high when they reach the town of Acireale. This geological structure of about 10 kilometers long, still wild and solitary, is known as the timpa, a term that indicates a steep hillside. The timpa of Acireale is a natural reserve since 1984, instituted to protect a unique geological patrimony of the Earth, to which the botanical riches of the Mediterranean bush and landscapes, also bound to the footprints of human civilization, are added. The brick walls made of volcanic stone belonging to the agricultural tradition, the fishing villages, the adventurous mule tracks of the past, all contribute to create a suggestive togetherness when nature and civilization have lived together for centuries. Amongst the species of plants that have colonized the ground of the timpa, the spurge bush is predominant. This is associated with small trees and sclerophyllous shrubs, which have thick leathery leaves to protect themselves from the summer period of dehydration. The cliffs and the isolated rocks are often covered with cushions of ivy and capers. Following the paths of the reserve, it is possible to observe a few species of small birds that live in the lower bush environment, as for example the Sardinian warbler, characteristic because of the dark red ring around its eyelids. Moving a few kilometers away from the coast, you can encounter an area of striking beauty situated in the village of San Gregorio. Here there is an interesting complex of caves of volcanic origin, of great naturalistic, archaeological and historical importance, known as Immacolatelle and Micio Conti. The Integral Natural Reserve was established in 1998. It extends over an area of about 70 acres. The entirety of the caves is made up of a system of 8 cavities that have a total length of approximately 1.5 kilometers. You enter the caverns through the entrance created by the collapsing of the vaults. There are interesting phenomena inside. In the Micio Conti, you can see particular lines on the walls left by the passage of the lava and little stalactites on the ceiling. A characteristic are the rolls of lava at the base of the walls generated by the partial cooling of the tunnel of lava. The surrounding territory is characterized by a typical rural landscape of vineyards and small rural cottages made of volcanic stone that was once the vital center of the farm. The Guardiola Cantarella is of a certain importance, a 16th century sentry box that characterizes the whole area. From a vegetation point of view, there are still some bands of woods that conserve oak trees which, together with the hackberry, form the thermophilic woods, a real oddity for the whole Etna area. Returning to the Ionic coast, we visit one of the last strips of the old marshland which once dominated the plain of Mascali, characterized by the river Fiumefreddo. The reserve, established in 1984, the management of which is run by the regional province of Catania, is characterized by the presence of species typical of the marshland woods and species that assume the meaning of flotsam in Sicily. Species such as the papyrus of African tropical origin and the stream water crowfoot of European Atlantic origin cohabitate here. The presence of reeds shows the ground's tendency to swamp because of the water sources that have accumulated underground on the oriental side of Mount Etna. Of this quagmire today remains the river Fiumefreddo and the swamp of the Gurna, in the territory of Mascali, a humid area in which numerous species of birds nest. The waters of the river emerge from the richest spring in Sicily. Amongst these, the sources Caldare and Fiorini, that in the period of high water manifest a characteristic effect of big cooking pots full of boiling water. This is why they are commonly called quadari, because of the resemblance with big copper cooking pots in which the water for the laundry was once boiled. The typical fluvial landscape is characterized by plants, among which the iris with its elegant yellow flower, the horsetail and the rushes. The shade in the oasis is guaranteed by the white willow trees with its sinuous branches and the white poplars. In the observation points, it is possible to spot the passage of the moorhen. In Sicily, every place is a metaphor. Each landscape is an archetype of nature's drawings. The valley of Alcantara represents all this. The Alcantara, which in Arabian means the bridge, watches over places of rare beauty. This is why it is protected by regional normatives. The upper part above Randazzo is inserted in the regional park of the Nebrides, for the part of the area in the valley, the fluvial park of Alcantara, which was established in 2001. Castiglione di Sicilia, Calatabiano and Randazzo are councils in the province of Catania which all take part in the park. This particular fluvial ecosystem includes the typical gorge, high basaltic walls between which the river with its freezing water flows, originated following the thawing of the snow. Inaccessible stretches characterized by the typical basalt columns, intervalled by falls and rapids, where singular locks called urne or gurne are formed. Some thousands of years ago, in prehistoric times, the river Alcantara did not exist. In its place, the